The managed fund, that $10,000 over 9 years grew to Derek here, back with another Financial Fundie. This week I want to answer another one of your questions. I want to do another Q&A. And this week I want to talk about fees when it comes to investing. And the reason I'm addressing this is because I've had people who have been talking to me about the Questrade commercials, and they are saying, Derek, answer the questions about fees. So here's my answer. I think when people are asking about fees, they're asking about one of two things. One, they're asking about, is there a fee per transaction? Is there a trade fee? That's a really important question that's being asked. And that's really the one that's being addressed in Questrade. They're saying, we're a direct investing platform. You pay virtually nothing when you trade, and that's fine. The other part of the fees that are included in investing are the MER, the management expense ratio. And to try to not have it be so muddy, let me just explain it this way. It mostly is a combination of the fund manager's fee, the person that literally goes and picks each individual stock within the fund, and the cost that I get paid for commission. So yes, my pay is in that as well. So when we're talking about the management expense ratio, this is the place where often people who are fee sensitive will say things like, look, if you're charging me an additional 1%, that's an additional 1% that I could have got on my investment between now and retirement, and it could have been my money. And I totally agree. But what I want to do is I want to quickly run through an example of the value of good fund management. Because as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to an investment, the risk and the reward should compensate you. Basically, you should be compensated for the risk that you take. If you are in something that's risky and you don't get a good return, then you ought to either be in something less risky or you need to be getting a better return and demanding it. When it comes to fund management, basically, if you get a better return with the same risk, the fund manager has probably picked better funds. They've moved the funds at the right time. They've done their job. To say that, the example that I often use to say that, I should be paying less fees, it's the equivalent of saying, if I hadn't taken my bookkeeping to the accountant, I would have got a bigger tax return because I had to pay them $1,000 to take care of the bookkeeping. Yes, and A, you would have used your own time to go do your own tax return, and B, your accountant probably found you a bigger tax return anyway. So let me just show you an example when it comes to investing. And I'm comparing two stocks, and I pulled this up because I had a client specifically ask me about their fund, and they said, I'm very fee sensitive, find me with something with similar fees. So in this particular case, this client had a Vanguard S&P 500 EFT exchange traded fund. I won't get into the details of that, but essentially this particular fund matches the index, and so of course it has low management fees, because if the S&P 500 has these holdings, so does this fund. So you can see, can you see this, Nolan? Can you see what that says there? No? Okay. So I'm just going to walk through this if it can't be seen from the screen, but essentially this fund had a 0.02% management expense ratio, virtually nothing. It was like, we're going to manage this fund for free for you. So I compared it in this particular case to a Sun Life MFS US Growth Fund, and it has a 0.8% management expense ratio. Well, on paper, you would say right away, okay, wait a second, you're charging me 40 times the cost on this investment, and they're very similar. Let's just say for sake of time, sorry, they're very similar. I can show you why I'm saying that. The holdings in the one fund, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Adobe. The funds, the holdings in the other fund, almost the same. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook. So two funds, very similar holdings, very similar balance. One of them has a super cheap discount rate management expense ratio. The other one has this insane through the roof overpaid fund manager, 40 times the expense ratio. Well, let's have a look at the chart now and see what that means for your actual money. So again, you can't see the details on this chart, and again, I want to be very clear that, you know, historic fund performance is no indication of future performance. But let's say, for example, that somebody had put $10,000 in this fund in 2011. That $10,000, if put in the super cheap management fee fund, grew till 2020, so 9 years, that $10,000 would have grown to $37,000. And it cost you virtually nothing. It was 0.02%. If that same amount of money was put into the managed fund, that $10,000 over 9 years grew to $57,500. So, you know, when you're looking at that, you're looking at a difference of around $20,000. So I guess what I'd go back to saying is that if fees only matter, then it's arguable that you should be paying the higher fees. It's arguable that actually you should be, and I'm not saying you go find the most expensive management expense ratio, but certainly you should be looking for a good fund manager who has good historic performance and pay them what they're worth. Because if you pay them what they're worth, they're probably going to return you significantly more than the fraction of a difference in management expense ratio. So I hope that answers your questions. I know I'm going to get a lot more questions on fees and how they work, but if you can just think of it this way, when you come and invest with a financial advisor, what you're really paying them is a portion of that MER. And again, when you see the return on that investment, let's say it's 9% and the MER is 1%, sure, that thing did earn 10% and you had to pay the 1% to the fund manager and me, but you probably only got to 9% because it had a good fund manager. So any more questions, I'd love to answer them for you guys. Put them in the comments, message me, text me, and I will answer more questions for you. Have a great week and we'll talk soon.